Many of the images in the series are over a decade old, and it's held up in a sense of integrity, and that's a wonderful feeling for an artist coming to a work which now I guess starts to have some cultural weight or some historical specificity. What I mean by that is if you look at the image down there of the takeaway sign, you can see that potato fritters cost 65 cents, the Wellsford takeaway bar, which is just north of Auckland now. I'm sure it'd be closer to $1.65 10 years on and the like. So what I might do is, we've got about half an hour, have we, Russell, about? So what I might do is just give you some facts and figures, and then we can, a set of platform we can open up to questions, and then out of that I hope some deeper meaning will affect you. I have to say that I'm feeling a little tired. Have you noticed that galleries always schedule artists' talks the day after large openings and parties? You wouldn't be one to have artists talk the day before, the green light party. So forgive me if I slur my words and if I call you by the wrong name and the like. The Homely is really a collection of photographs, and these images were collected over a 4-year period, 1997 to 2000. They were all taken with a little Instamatic camera, which would literally fit in my pocket. And I kept this camera with me, not everywhere, but like a good documentarian, with me most of the time. So out to dinner, to museums, into the landscape, into the bush and the like. This little camera would be in my pocket. And because I keep emphasising, the scale of it, it meant that there was a degree of fluidity and nonchalant ease to this process of photographing and or, if you like, by analogy, collecting. So after photographing for 4 years, or at least at a certain point during that process, one starts to amass a greater collection. And like any collector, the real challenge, the second part of this process is, of course, ordering the collection. And that notion of ordering or narrative plays an integral role in the Homely. How to not only edit the series, but to bring it together so that it makes some fragmented, coherent sense. And that was my task. The images themselves come from both New Zealand and I hope you picked up Australia. Unfortunately not Brisbane, but the 3 other main cities on this coast, Canberra, Melbourne and Sydney, feature regularly indeed. True, as Russell said, much of this collecting came through travel, but also 2 residencies allowing this opportunity to delve deeper and to go into Parramatta and other darker areas of Australia to really understand the complexities and the relationships between growing up in suburban Australia and growing up in New Zealand, and presenting by a difference, I think, those touchstone points of both shared nationhood building and idiosyncrasies of our 2 countries. Okay, so what else do we need to know about it? I think there's 2 prior works that are key to the foundations of this project. In 1997, I curated a photographic exhibition of historical photography at our National Library called The Unnerved. And that very much formed a basis for understanding what images were in our National Archive that were used, in a sense, to define nationhood. The following year, 1998, I curated an exhibition of contemporary and photography from the 1970s that again addressed this issue of folklore. And there was indeed the title of that project, Folklore, the New Zealanders. I was particularly interested in with that project was looking to post-war photographic publications that, and popular publications, you also have them, titles such as the New Zealanders or the Australians, which somehow told our pioneering stories via a photographic pictorialism. And that research in those dual exhibitions very much formed an aesthetic, if you like, for this series. Where is the cherry blossom? Anyone see the cherry blossom? That's one there. That'll do. This is Christchurch. There's another cherry blossom down the path here, which is even more divine. The two cherry blossom images speak really quite clearly of that post-war Victorianism that I'm talking about. That picture-perfect picket fence, dare I say it, David Lynchian-like understanding of suburban culture. Now there are some little nodes, if you like, or chapters within this series. It's a linear frieze, and my work continues to be interested in notions of fragmented linear narrative, and of late that's moved into the moving image realm. There's an obvious connection here, such that, you know, if I can be quite crude, we start here with quite a lot of historical or pioneering-like elements, which seem to come right through here to this quite militant or World War II area, cenotaphs, elements from war memorials, including fragments from pictures from Canberra, this chap over here, and slowly we move through into this space of the suburban, right down in the end here. And this is where Sydney suburbs in particular start to feature. So there is, if you like, some underpinning, a number of chapters brought together, albeit implicit in the sequencing. I guess the other point I'll just quickly make is to note that, you know, there's an obvious number of images that are close-up images, and then the landscape will feature also in the juxtaposition of that. What it of course does is it allows you to take in an image by itself, but that is arguably affected by its neighbouring images. So an ongoing element in my work is the notion of how does a single image exist in the context of a greater series, and how does that series affect the reading of that specific image. Okay, and that's something, again, as I mentioned, which is really interesting in relationship to filmic influences. So I think I might just pause there actually, because I think that's many of the main points of the series. And perhaps one other element is the title, which is the homely, which is a rather awkward translation of a term that Freud used in his 1919 essay called Das Unheimlich, or the uncanny, often translated as, and the unhomely is linked to that. You call it homely, we call it unhomely in Schwabian folklore, that which is both familiar but unfamiliar. And that space of seriality in the everyday, I have to confess, I'm drawn to, and particularly with this series.